Marketplace Africa, we cover the biggest economic trends impacting the continent. This week, I'm in Abidjan, the economic capital of the Ivory Coast. After years and years of civil war, the IMF now predicts that the Ivory Coast will be the fastest growing economy in Africa in 2016, and there are many reasons why. Political stability has led to more foreign direct investment. Domestic demand is up thanks to a growing middle class, and exports of cash crops like cocoa, coffee and cashews have risen on average 11% a year since the year 2000. There are lots of signs of this progress taking place all around Abidjan. Here are just a few. After many years of conflict and political unrest, Ivory Coast is back in business.
This is an economy that is highly diversified. It's ideally located as a country and has an opportunity to work on a regional basis.
The International Monetary Fund says the country is Africa's fastest growing economy this year.
Côte d'Ivoire, for 2016, we were projecting a growth rate of 8.5%, and that is in comparison with 3% for sub-Saharan Africa as a whole.
The IMF predicts its GDP will continue to rise by an average of 7.4% between 2017 and 2020.
Deep economic reforms since 2012 that have allowed Côte d'Ivoire to stabilize its economy, maintain fiscal discipline, keep inflation low.
Even though the World Bank says nearly half the population lives in poverty, investors still see potential and some big names are coming back. The African Development Bank moved its headquarters from Ivory Coast to Tunisia during the civil war in 2003. A decade later, it felt the time was right to return to Abidjan.
As soon as the bank came back, and even prior to that, the conditions, the growth opportunities from peace and stability were tremendous. Then you look at the investments that went into, for instance, improving the quality of life in Abidjan, building of a bridge that reduced congestion tremendously to go across the lagoon, because otherwise you had to go quite a long distance to get around.
All right, so take a look right behind me. This right here is the Henry Konan Bedier Bridge. It is the largest bridge in Abidjan, connecting the wealthy suburb of Cocody with the urban areas behind me. And this huge piece of infrastructure is important because it actually saves drivers roughly around 30 minutes on their total commute times. But planning for the bridge has been a long time in the making. It began way back in 1952 and was only just completed at the end of 2014. The African Development Bank helped pay for the toll bridge and facilitate its completion.
These are usually expensive projects and they require partnerships. You need to bring in multiple players. So the bridge cost 250 million. We put in only 65, which means you have to crowd in all the other investors.
And Ivory Coast wouldn't have been able to power a fast-growing economy without a strong energy sector.
Power demand has grown by 10% a year these last 5 years. My education,
Ralph Oleye is a director at Aeronov, the parent company of the independent electricity producer Cyprel that's been serving the country since 1994.
Over more than 20 years, we've invested $560 million, and that's because the environment is right.
At this recently upgraded power plant, Cyprel says it produces nearly 4,000 gigawatt hours annually, contributing to the country's power surplus.
Côte d'Ivoire is blessed with natural resources that allows it to produce hydropower. They also have gas, which allow them to produce thermal power. Because there is regional demand for power, Côte d'Ivoire sees itself as a power hub for the region, and they produce power and they sell it.
And even though the country is exporting electricity, only a portion of the population has access to power.
More than 80% of Ivorian population is what we call under the grid. They are a few meters away from an electricity line. But currently, the population that is connected to the grid is in the tune of 40%.
One big reason is that many residents can't afford to install the necessary meters. Oleye says the government is working on a solution.
Meters are expensive. When they are provided to users, they have to be bought and installed. President Ouattara has just launched the program Énergie pour tous, Électricité pour tous, that allows to actually do away with the initial cost of providing a meter.
The president of Ivory Coast also plans to end the monopoly of the country's sole power distributor, CIE, to lower prices for consumers.
We expect growth to become more inclusive so that the population will benefit more than what it has.
There are many parts of the country that aren't feeling the impact of Ivory Coast's fast growth, but Ivoirians hope the economy will continue to progress and offer more people a bridge to prosperity. Time for a quick break here on Marketplace Africa. When we come back, I'll take you to the iconic Ivory Coast Hotel, whose past guests include Muhammad Ali and Michael Jackson.